Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker. I'm here for Esquire UK, and we're going to be playing Freeze Frame, I've been told to tell you, because that's what's going to happen. It's what their franchise is called. And we're going to be playing Freeze Frame, looking at USS Callister from Black Mirror and its sequel, the brand new USS Callister Into Infinity. I think pretty much as soon as we'd finished making the original USS Callister, we all felt, I miss these characters already. Oh, it'd be fun to have more of these characters. And, you know, the cast were amazing. Toby Haynes, who directed it, was immediately keen to get back on the bike. And really it was partly that we just sort of loved the characters, and also partly that the situation they found themselves in at the end of the original Callister kind of lent itself immediately to a sequel, because they literally fly into a whole new universe and then we present them with a problem straight away. So it sort of felt natural. One of the things I was very keen to not happen with the original was the original episode. It's about this character, Robert Daly, who's got this, he's sort of copied digital clones of co-workers into a kind of toxic version of his favorite sci-fi show, which is a sort of vintage sci-fi show that you might say is not a million miles away from something like Star Trek. And I was very keen that fans of shows like that didn't feel that it was an attack on them, because it wasn't, because I think those shows are incredible. And so I was pleased to see that I think the majority of people saw that, you know, it was a playful homage. We weren't saying that those shows were bad or terrible or anything like that. You know, it was done with love.
13th floor. Welcome to Callister.
Elena, can I?
It's your fault he's dead.
What?
He's dead and it's your fault.
No, what happened to Robert Daly is not...
Your pass is dead because you did not renew.
My pass.
You must renew each month.
Can I get a temporary one? Sorry, I've had a lot on my mind. What's that?
Memorial to Mr. Daly.
He's been dead for months. Why now?
Mr. Walton put there this morning to impress journalist
What journalist?
from New York Times. He will be here soon. You want pass or no?
Nice. Okay, so this is from very early on in the story, where real Nanette, has come to work on a particular morning. She sees a tribute to the late Robert Daly. Is there at reception at Callister where she works, and she encounters Talaska, who's the receptionist, and also we've seen there's a copy of Talaska copied onto the ship. It's very confusing for me to try and explain to you, so I won't. The character Talaska is really good fun. Malanka is much nicer and warmer in real life than she is in this. Talaska exudes a sort of energy where she looks at people like they're sort of blobs of dog shit on the end of a stick that's being waved under her nose constantly. So she's a sort of fun, deadpan comic foil. Very reliable, very reliable. I have to be honest, I really wasn't thinking of Gamergate specifically there. I mean, really it came about, it was a story about, I mean, obviously the character is not a nice person. He's kind of, in a way, it's more, for him, it's about powerful stop, because he copies sort of all his co-workers in. Really, I was thinking about stories about tyrants, and that's what he is in that original. He is a tyrant, predominantly. So it was that's sort of what I was thinking about. There's an old Twilight Zone episode called It's a Good Life, which is about a child who's got incredible sort of magic power. And there's something about Daly that hasn't kind of grown up in many ways. So that was more specifically what I was kind of thinking about. There was a story about a sort of tyrant who's also, weirdly, one of the inspirations was this Viz character called Playtime Fontaine, who's a character who insists on people joining in sort of childish playground games, even though he's a grown-up. And there's sort of an element of that there. So it's probably that that is really more what I was thinking about when writing it. There is a couple of cameos that fans should watch out for in the sequel. I don't want to kind of spoil it. Actually, you can keep your eyes peeled, but there's characters from another episode entirely who pop up.
Someone hacked into my photo cloud account and then stole some very intimate images of me.
Can I see the images?
No.
Just, to help us figure this out.
No.
Okay.
No. And they used those images to blackmail me into breaking into his apartment. And when
You killed him.
No. He was alive when I left.
That's what a murderer would say after they killed someone.
No, I didn't touch him. Okay? They had me break in, and they had me steal all of these, like, DNA samples that he kept in these little Ziploc baggies in his fridge. And they all have our names on them. Look, that's my name.
Jesus Christ.
There was Nate's name. There was a whole bunch of us from the office. Even you.
Wait, I was in there?
Yeah, the only one that I didn't recognize was there was a lollipop labeled Tommy, and I don't know who that is.
Tommy's my son.
Ooh. Wow. You see, there's a lot of information that is carried over from the original story into this episode. There's a lot of sort of narrative cable tying we had to do to sort of make sure that both the story made sense and that newcomers to the story would understand what was going on. And I think Kristen and Jimmy do a great job here because it moves from kind of comic to ominous there. But that's at the heart of it, is that Nanette, real world Nanette at this point in the story, doesn't really know what's gone on. She just knows she was blackmailed into stealing these sort of DNA samples from Daly's fridge, but she doesn't know why. But she's smart and she's kind of piecing it together. So this is kind of where she's doing a little bit of detective work at this moment.
No idea what it is like out there, okay? And I can't believe that I have to say this again. Our entire existence is a crime, and if we are caught, we get deleted like that.
I don't care. I'm losing my mind here. I don't do anything. Everyone has a role. You're the captain, right? Dudani's space nerd. Talaska's got the sexy alien thing going on.
We had to revert back to her alien skin to cure her eczema.
And now we can't afford to change her back.
But also, yes, is. Fuck's sake.
But even intern.
He's like a space marine over here.
Former.
Stop, please stop.
I just do nothing. Nothing. And it sucks. And I just want to help. Can I just sit in the chair while you're gone?
Yeah, you can sit in the chair.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nice. Billy Magnus gives good, there's a sort of childlike naivety to Carl, the character of Carl, who was in the original. He played because in the original he's forced to take on the role of Valdek, who's a sort of villain in the Space Fleet world, whereas actually he's got a sort of puppyish energy to him, and it's just fun. We've got such a good cast of characters on board this ship. It's funny because you've got the fun of seeing them in the office, and then you've got their mirror versions in on the deck of the spaceship. So we always have fun leaning into them. We had a phrase when we were doing the show that we didn't want to logic our way out of fun. So because we really enjoyed the fact that Talaska is this blue alien, she looked so cool, really logically that wasn't, we had to come up with an explanation as to why she had this alien skin still inside the game, which we did there, where they say it's to cure her eczema that she developed. But really, to be honest, it was an excuse because we just thought that, and Malanka agreed, that she just looked so cool as that blue alien that why would we want to logic our way out of the fun of doing that? Why? Definitely the characters in the world of sort of Infinity inside the game have been tested in a way that their real life equivalents in the office have not. So certainly if you look at Nanette, who's played by Kristen Milioti, the in-game version of her has faced terrible sort of perils and has had to sort of step up and become a leader, and has become, as she describes it, when the real world version of her, who is a lot more of a bit more of a flippity gibbet, I think it's fair to say, goes in and is amazed by how capable she appears to be because she's been tested. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got Jimmy Simpson's character, Walton, who in the game has suffered and has become quite noble and quite more caring, fully rounded person. The outside version of him is a more venal, sort of selfish business twit. The outside him is arrogant and a bit of a prick and doesn't think things through, does bite him on the arse because he's not, he sort of bowls into situations without really thinking them through. He doesn't really think about other people. Can't even remember their names. He can't even remember the names of half his staff. And so it's sort of amusing to see that. It felt like that's the sort of thing that should be the sort of thing that gets him into trouble when he goes in. Again, it's the contrast between the sort of real world version of him and the in-game version of him. And I think it's a credit to the cast that even though they look the same, you immediately know which one you're dealing with. And so it's fun to sort of lean into the differences between the real world version and the in-game version. And often the in-game versions are they're individuals who've been tested a little more. So we had fun with that. And this is a space opera. And certainly it's just fun to sort of be able to kind of, again, we try and do it pretty smartly. We don't have the budget of like The Mandalorian or something like that, but we do what we can with the talented people on board. It's a fun thing to do.
How'd it go down there?
Things got a little spicy.
You got into combat shit? If I was there, I would have popped them. Bap, bap, gangster style.
You're hurt. What happened?
Oh, I missed the nipple. It's fine. The important thing is, we got a lot more money. We've got a whole...
34 credits.
Won't buy much fuel.
And we're almost out of ammo.
They're monetizing the shit out of this game. Everything costs double.
Cost of existing crisis.
If I was there, I could have squeezed more out of them.
That was all they had.
Guys.
Don't.
Hey, this is not what we wanted, but this is enough to keep us going for a few more days, right, Kabir?
Right.
Yeah, right, okay. So I think we focus on that, and we keep going, and next time, we will get more. And, yeah.
You want me to bandage it?
Well, no, just a scratch. I'm gonna patch it up in my room. And, I'm just gonna take a quick 5, and then we will plot course for our next hit.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Aye, aye, Captain.
How does one bandage a tip?
We've all wondered. That's right from near the start of the story. A key thing that's going on, one of the key questions early on in approaching the sequel was, now that they're in the actual fully fledged game version of the game, what's that like? How would that be shit in an interesting way? And one of the things it struck us was that, there's a lot of microtransactions in video games where sort of, every little thing costs money. And so it made sense that they've got two major problems, the crew, as we find them at the start. On the one hand, they can't afford anything. They're having to rob the odd credit here and there in order to get fuel for their spaceship in order to survive, because problem 2 is that they're the only physically vulnerable people in this universe. Everyone else is just playing a game, and if they get shot, they just wake up in their bedroom. These guys, if they get shot, they're shot, they die. And so it was just fun to make that, whereas because they need funds, they have to keep robbing people. So it meant that they're constantly in danger. It made them underdogs. It gave them a real problem at the start of the story. It also felt like, in some way, it's sort of slightly commenting on the squeezing of, the sort of squeezing that goes on, the gouging of sort of like players in video games and things like that, in a mild way. I think, you see, I'm a big video games player. I don't like the term gamer. It just sounds rubbish, doesn't it? So video games player, video gamist. I feel that actually there are more immersive games now than there were then. Certainly, like VR has jumped along in leaps and bounds, and that's about as immersive as it bloody well gets. I mean, there's still games. The amount of incredible detail in some games now makes them feel like full, living, breathing worlds. There's this game I've been playing called Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 that's so insanely detailed, you have to literally sort of wash shit off yourself. Troughs every so I should say it's set in medieval times. It's not set now. And if you don't, then other characters will sort of complain that you stink when you walk past them, and they'll shout rude words at you and stuff. So I think games are incredibly immersive. You don't necessarily need incredible graphics or sort of VR technology to be immersed in a game. One of the most immersive games I've played of late is this game called Balatro, or Balatro, however you want to pronounce it. It looks like a simplistic kind of poker game. It's the most addictive substance known to man, and if you're playing that, you're really not aware of the outside world. You could probably amputate both my legs while I was playing that game, and I wouldn't know until I got up to leave and go to the toilet and I fell flat on my flipping face. And what are you doing? Why are you doing that to me? What's wrong with you? You're at fault. Well, that's that, isn't it? Thank you for watching, joining me here. Why don't you go away now and watch season 7 of Black Mirror on Netflix, which is available. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here telling you this. Go on. What charm I exude to the viewer.